My name is Leah Carter, and if you'd asked me 6 months ago what fear felt like, I would have said something like driving in a snowstorm or walking home alone at night. But real fear, the kind that hollows your chest and steals your breath, that comes when someone accuses you of stealing your own child. Let me tell you how it started. It was a Monday morning like any other. I was late, of course. Coffee half spilled on my hoodie, Emmy's banana smeared on the seatbelt, the usual circus of a single mom juggling work and a toddler who refused to wear shoes that feel like prison. "Come on, baby," I coaxed, strapping Emmy into her car seat. "Blue Bunny is in the diaper bag, and you can have your fruit snacks after we drop off." She huffed dramatically but gave in. She was 3, already fluent in emotional blackmail. By 8:42 a.m., we were cruising down Elmwood Avenue. The sun was out. The daycare playlist, a mix of Frozen and Taylor Swift, was playing. My mind was already on the morning meeting at work. I didn't know this would be the last normal moment for weeks. Little Acorn's daycare was tucked into a quiet corner of Maple Street, a yellow building with rainbow handprints on the windows, the kind of place that smelled like peanut butter and washable paint. I signed Emmy in, kissed her sticky cheek, and gave her teacher, Miss Denise, a smile. "She had a bit of a rough morning," I said. "Didn't want to wear her shoes." Denise laughed. "The usual. We've got a new art project today. She'll forget about the shoes by snack time." I waved goodbye and walked back to the car, sipping what was left of my lukewarm coffee. At 9:07 a.m., I walked into the office. At 10:21 a.m., everything fell apart. I was in a Zoom meeting when my phone buzzed. I glanced down, unknown number, I ignored it. 2 minutes later, it buzzed again. Voicemail, then a call from the daycare. I stepped out of the meeting. "Hi, this is Leah." "Miss Carter, this is Denise. The police are here asking about Emmy." I froze. "What? Why?" "I don't know exactly. They said something about custody. Are you still legally allowed to bring her here?" "What are you talking about?" I could hear kids in the background. Then a stern male voice. "Is this Leah Carter?" "Yes." "This is Officer Nolan with the Springfield Police Department. We've received a report that you removed your daughter, Emmy Carter, from her legal guardian's custody without permission." My world tilted. "She's my daughter," I said. "I have custody." There was a pause. Then he asked the question that changed everything. "Are you aware that your ex-husband Tyler Carter has filed an emergency custody order?" I hadn't spoken to Tyler in weeks. We'd divorced over a year ago, and though it was messy, we'd finally settled into a tense co-parenting rhythm. Split weeks, alternating weekends. The arrangement was formal but functional. So why was he suddenly saying I kidnapped our child? I rushed to the police station, clutching every legal paper I had, our custody agreement, court filings, even Emmy's birth certificate. They didn't arrest me, but they did take Emmy into temporary protective custody. I wasn't even allowed to pick her up from daycare. She was escorted into a car with a female officer while I stood behind yellow tape, tears streaming down my face. "I want to see my daughter," I begged. "Ma'am," Officer Nolan said, voice stiff, "until this is sorted out legally, you are not to have contact with the minor." It felt like a slap. 1,000 slaps. What had Tyler told them? Back at home, I tore through my emails. Sure enough, there it was, a notification from the county court dated Sunday at 4:43 p.m. Tyler had filed for an emergency custody order. In his affidavit, he claimed I had become erratic, that I had refused to return Emmy after my designated parenting time, and that I had exhibited signs of emotional instability and potential danger to the child. Every word felt like acid. None of it was true. The last drop-off had gone normally. He'd picked Emmy up, spent his week, and then I'd picked her up like always. There were no texts, no warnings, no fights, just this. I called him, straight to voicemail. Then I messaged, "Tyler, what the hell is going on? You said nothing. You know I'd never hurt her. Why are you doing this? No reply. I called my lawyer, Danielle. She was as shocked as I was. Emergency orders are usually granted without a hearing, she said, already scanning the court documents. But you can challenge it. We'll request an expedited review. How long? A week, maybe 10 days. A week? I gasped. That's forever to a 3-year-old. I know, she said gently, but if we rush this, we risk it being denied. We'll do this right. Trust me. So I waited. Each day was a slow, aching punishment. I texted Emmy's little video clips of me singing her favorite songs, of Blue Bunny dancing on the table, but I didn't send them. I didn't want to violate the no-contact rule. And Tyler, still silent. It felt like he'd vanished into a void of lawyers and lies. Then came the second hit, a blog post. I never would have seen it if someone from work hadn't sent me the link. It was published on a local mom-focused website, written anonymously, titled, "When You Have to Save Your Child from Her Own Mother." I read it 3 times. The language was vague, but not vague enough. An ex-wife spiraling. A mother who refused to co-parent. The terrifying moment I realized I couldn't trust her anymore. Comments poured in. Good for him for stepping up. Mothers aren't always the safe ones. Hope the courts see the truth. I wanted to scream. How could he paint me as unfit, as dangerous? The woman who nursed Emmy through ear infections, who taught her to say please before more juice, who had packed every lunch with those stupid little dinosaur napkins just to make her smile. Was this really happening? The day of the hearing arrived. I wore a navy blazer, my hands ice cold as I gripped Danielle's notes. Tyler sat across the courtroom, clean-shaven, calm. He wore a suit he never used to bother with. He wouldn't look at me. His lawyer argued that Emmy had shown emotional distress after my care, that I'd picked her up from his house without clarity, that I had a pattern of unpredictable behavior. Danielle responded with timelines, text records, parenting logs. She showed the pickup schedule, the fact that Tyler had never once expressed concern until this. Then she presented the real twist, the daycare's internal notes. Denise had quietly documented every drop-off and pickup for the last 2 months, including a note that Emmy had once cried when Tyler picked her up, clinging to me. She said she didn't want to go, the note read. Leah reassured her calmly and handed her over. Denise's testimony confirmed it. The judge asked one question. Mr. Carter, if your co-parent was such a risk to your child, why did you allow her to continue unsupervised for the last year? Tyler hesitated, then mumbled, I just didn't realize until recently. The judge was unimpressed. She ruled to reinstate the original custody agreement, effective immediately. I burst into tears. Danielle squeezed my hand. When I picked Emmy up from the temporary foster home that afternoon, she ran to me like no time had passed. Mama, she cried, Blue Bunny trailing behind her. I dropped to my knees, clutching her to me like a lifeline. Did you miss me, baby? She nodded, her eyes wide. Where were you? I couldn't tell her the truth. Not yet. So I said, I missed you too, but I'm here now, and I'm never leaving again. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over, because someone I once loved had tried to erase me, and I was going to find out why. My daughter was asleep in the back seat, her tiny mouth open, clutching Blue Bunny like a lifeline. I kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror as I drove home. Everything in me still buzzed with the courtroom's echoes, words like custody, instability, risk. But it was over. For now, I had Emmy back. She was safe, and Tyler had lost. But my heart wouldn't settle. Because this wasn't just a petty custody stunt. It didn't feel like a moment of insecurity or even revenge. This was bigger, cold, calculated. Tyler hadn't just tried to paint me as unstable. He'd made me disappear from our daughter's life in less than 24 hours, and I needed to know why. It started with a question. Danielle, I asked my lawyer the next morning. Can we find out why he filed the emergency order when he did? She looked up from her laptop. You mean legally? No, just as a person, a mother. Something about the timing. It doesn't make sense. One day we're co-parenting, the next he's weaponizing the court. She paused. There is one thing I can request, a motion for discovery. It lets us access documentation about what led to the emergency order. Texts, emails, even sworn statements if needed. I nodded. Do it. It would take a few days, she warned. I could wait, because deep down I felt it. There was something Tyler wasn't telling me. While we waited, I returned to routine. Emmy was clingier than usual, which made sense. I didn't push. We baked cookies, painted rocks in the backyard, sang lullabies longer than necessary. I let her sleep beside me for 3 nights in a row just so I could watch her chest rise and fall. But at night, when she slept, I searched. I dug through Tyler's old emails, his social media posts. I looked for anything that felt off. Then I found it, a tagged post on LinkedIn. A woman named Kristen Myers, a family attorney from upstate New York, had posted a congratulatory note to Tyler on his new chapter in Rochester, helping launch a private mentorship program for divorced fathers. What? Tyler hadn't said anything about moving or changing jobs. Our custody agreement was tied to Springfield. He wasn't legally allowed to move Emmy without a hearing. I sent the screenshot to Danielle. She replied 5 minutes later. This could be huge. If he planned to relocate, this could have been his motive. Let's wait for what discovery reveals. The documents arrived a few days later. Tyler's sworn affidavit, the same one he filed to get the emergency custody order, included one line buried in the middle. I plan to relocate to Rochester in the coming months, and I am requesting full custody to avoid instability for the child. There it was. The truth. He'd tried to take Emmy because he was leaving, and he didn't want to fight for her. He just wanted to remove me, clean, silent. And if the emergency custody order had worked, he could have left with her before I even saw it coming. I sat on my porch that night, legs numb, staring out into the quiet street. The air smelled like grass and old rain. Emmy was asleep inside, and I finally let the tears come. Not from fear anymore, from betrayal. This wasn't the man I married. This wasn't even the man I divorced. This was someone willing to break our daughter's world for convenience. I called Danielle. I want to reopen the custody case, I said. I was about to recommend it, she replied. The hearing was granted 2 weeks later. This time, I was ready. We presented the new evidence, his LinkedIn posts, the timeline of the job offer, and the hidden relocation plans in his affidavit. Danielle spoke with fire and precision. Your Honor, she said, this wasn't an emergency. This was an ambush. Tyler's lawyer tried to pivot, arguing that his new job was about financial stability and opportunity. But the judge cut in. You misused the emergency order system, she said, to attempt a unilateral change in custody without informing the other parent. That's not parenting, that's manipulation. Her ruling came swift and sharp. I was granted primary custody. Tyler's visits would now be supervised until further review. He sat still, hands folded, saying nothing. I didn't look at him as I walked out of that courtroom. I had my daughter. I had the truth. And that was enough. Outside the courthouse, the sun hit different, warmer. I lifted Emmy into my arms as Danielle patted my shoulder and left. Emmy ran her hand through my hair and said softly, "You smell like pancakes." I laughed. It was the first time in weeks that I laughed without forcing it. We went for pancakes, just the two of us. Blue Bunny had a seat of his own. Weeks turned into months. Tyler didn't contest the ruling. He saw Emmy every few weeks, quietly and with a court supervisor present. He barely spoke to me, but I didn't care. I wasn't angry anymore. I was healing. I started journaling again, opened up to a support group for co-parents, began working part-time as a freelance editor so I could stay home with Emmy more. We made a garden together, watched butterflies come and go. Life, after all, was still growing. One evening, as I tucked Emmy in, she looked at me sleepily and said, "Did I do something wrong when Daddy left?" I froze. My voice caught. "No, sweetheart," I whispered, brushing her curls from her eyes. "You did everything right." She blinked. "Then why did he say you were scary?" My breath hitched. It was then I realized she had heard more than I thought, felt more than I'd wanted her to. I pulled her close. Sometimes people say things when they're scared themselves, but I was never scared of you. I was scared of losing you. She smiled softly. "You didn't." "No, I didn't, and I never would again." Some stories don't end in a courtroom. Some stories end in quiet living rooms, with nightlights glowing and lullabies playing on repeat. But mine, it didn't end at all. It began, again, with the moment I refused to be erased. Because I am Leah. I am her mother, and no one will ever rewrite that. Thank you for listening to The Story Voice. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. And if you've got a story you think the world needs to hear, drop it in the comments. I might just tell it next. Until then, keep listening and keep feeling.